Hey, hi, welcome to Community Conversations. This is a show where Connecticut comes together. We talk about the people and the purposes and the possibilities in our community.
And we're here every other Wednesday from 3 to 4 p.m. on 1400 AM and 95.3 FM. We bring you lively, inspiring conversations with nonprofit leaders, volunteers, change makers, and everyday heroes who are all working hard to make our communities stronger, healthier, and more connected.
We talk about the resources you can use, the events you can attend, the causes you can support, and the stories that deserve to be shared.
Whether you're looking for help, hoping to give back, or just want to know what's happening in your community, this is the place to start.
Because when we connect people to purpose, we create possibility. I'm Kathleen Kreider.
And I'm Allison Hennigan from Generations Family Health Center, and we're so glad you're here. Let's get started today.
Before we get started, can I tell a little joke?
Sure.
So today's topic has to do with nutrition for the mind, and we're going to be talking about mindfulness here with Melisa. So I have some mindfulness jokes that I want to share. So here's my first mindfulness joke. Are you guys ready? Okay. Why do mindful meditators love birthdays?
Why?
They love all the presents.
Oh, I like that one. And today is my daughter's birthday, as a matter
And my
of fact.
dad's.
All right, what a great date.
Nice, yeah.
Happy birthday to your daughter.
Thank you. So, thank you, Kathleen, for sharing some humor with us, some mindfulness humor.
Yeah.
And today we have a guest here in our first half talking about nutrition for mindfulness, and she is Melisa Roberson. She's the manager of United Services EAP program.
Employee Assistance Program.
Thank you. I was
Right.
going to let her
Oh, so
explain
sorry.
that, but that's
It's
okay,
okay.
Kathleen.
Thank you,
sorry.
Kathleen.
So March is all about healthy bodies, and today we're talking about something that affects every single one of our nutrition. Good nutrition isn't just about what's on our plate. It shapes how our children grow and develop, how our minds function as we age, and how our community thrives. Everything our show is about, all the time. Today, we're going to hear from the experts and programs right here in Northeastern Connecticut who are helping people at every stage of life, age, and development. From the earliest days of pregnancy and infancy all the way through adulthood.
In our first segment, we're going to focus on nutrition for adult minds, how the practice of mindfulness can enhance our bodies, brains, and beings. And then after the break, we'll talk about nutrition for the absorbent mind, or those early developmental years. So Allison, introduce us to Melisa, and Melisa, kick us off.
Well, Melisa, I am so glad you are here. Why don't you begin by telling us a little bit about yourself, how you came to United Services, what United Services is.
Please,
and then,
what United Services is.
Yes.
Okay.
And then also go into, she gave it away, what EAP stands for, but what an EAP program is.
All right. Hi, Allison and Kathleen. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
So basically, again, my name is Melisa Roberson, and I am the Employee Assistance Program Manager with United Services. For those of you who are not familiar with United Services, we are a nonprofit organization, and we are located in Dayville. We are also located in Mansfield and our Oregon office.
So if you're, I'm sorry to interrupt, but in Mansfield, right, it's the connector road from like where Eastern's baseball field is over towards the mall. That's where United Services is
Correct.
located.
And it's a brand new, beautiful building with a lot of things under one roof.
Yeah, we've been there for a few years now. Still
Time
pretty-
flies.
I'm sorry, I interrupted. You were saying.
That's okay. So basically, I'm the Employee Assistance Program Manager. That is one of the programs that we offer at United Services. And United Services offer a variety of different programs, including behavioral health services, substance use treatment, services for children, services for family. We also have a 24-hour crisis response department that's available to the public. We have housing support. We also have case management services. We have domestic violence services, so and even employment services. So the list goes on and on. We offer a variety. One of the programs that we offer is the Employee Assistance Program, which I run. It is a contracted program, so the companies that we work with have a contract with us, and we provide services to the employers and their employees. And we try to provide services to help improve their emotional well-being, to help them be productive at work, or to help address any concerns that they may have outside of their work, because we want to focus on the whole person, not just work.
So how many companies do you contract with for EAP programs?
We have a variety, a list. I don't have the specific number offhand, but we do service different companies throughout the state.
So if I'm an employee at, say, Generations Family Health Center, and we're contracted with you, which we are not, but if we were with United Services, and I went to my manager or my HR department and said I had an issue, or didn't go to any of those folks and just wanted to reach out to my EAP, walk me through what happens.
So basically, an employee doesn't have to go to their employer to access our services. They can contact us directly. We do a regular job of making sure employees know that the service is available to them. So we try to provide resources, remind employees that this is available. It is confidential, and it is also free to the employees. So the employers pay for this benefit, and the employees access it as part of their benefits package. We don't notify an employer when an employee reaches out for this service because, again, it is free and confidential. We may sometimes receive a mandatory referral from an employer, and an employee usually has to sign off on that. And that's usually because of some work-related issue or performance concerns. And the only thing we can really provide to an employer is whether or not that employee has successfully reached out to us and engaged in the services that we recommended. No additional details is provided. So it's confidential.
If I reached out to you and said I want to talk to a therapist, you don't bill the insurance, the company?
We don't bill the insurance,
So
no.
the agency that contracted with you or the company that contracted with you is paying the fee for that
Yeah,
therapist?
they pay us that service. And it's not paid monthly, or it's usually paid on an annual basis or quarterly basis. So we don't bill them every time an employee comes to us. They pay us for that service on a quarterly or yearly basis. So they don't get a bill from us per se.
And I want to get back to, I want to make sure that people hear how it is that you came to this work. What was your professional path and your credentialing?
Right. So I'm a licensed clinical social worker. And prior to working for United Services, I provided particularly case management support in various programs throughout the state. But I have been with United Services for the past almost 3 years. And I started in their crisis response department as a crisis clinician. And I really enjoyed that aspect of social work because it's fast-paced. It's one of those environments where you're dealing with clients when they're usually at their worst, And it's solution-focused. We usually try to say, try to focus on how can we get you from where you are to where you need to be? How can we help you address those immediate crises to help you to get to a place where you're able to function? Because sometimes when we deal with clients in crisis, they're at a point where they're unable to function because of this level of stress or crisis that they're dealing with. And similar to EAP, we try to provide solution-focused support to clients to help them get from where they are to where they need to be. How can we help you improve your whole being, whether it's work-related or personal-related, because sometimes personal stress can affect our ability to do our job, or work-related stress can affect us in our home life. So we want that person to have that work-life balance. That's the purpose of EAP services, is being able to have a work-life balance.
And would you say that EAP, the therapy that's provided in an EAP program, would that look like traditional therapy?
No, it's different from traditional therapy because in EAP we focus on the here and now. Like, what are your current stressors? How can we help you address those current stressors? Traditional therapy focuses more on the history, maybe even going as far back as someone's childhood. We also, in EAP, we don't do diagnosing in EAP because, again, there's not a lot of clinical assessment that goes into EAP. It's more assessing you to see what your treatment needs are, what your whatever your needs are. It could be just with case management support. Sometimes a person might reach out to us because they're having some financial struggles and they want to get connected to some resources to help address that. So it's not always behavioral health. And if we meet with someone and we determine right from the beginning that they need something a little bit more long-term than EAP, then that's when we have that conversation to say, hey, this is what, we're seeing, what are your thoughts about something a little more long-term? And if we identify that as a need, then we try not to continue working with that person because, beyond the EAP sessions, because we can't. Because we're contracted to provide, whether it's 1 session, 3 sessions, 5 sessions, it's very short term.
So then you transition that person.
We transition them as soon as possible if we determine that they need something a little bit more long term.
Gotcha.
So it's different from traditional therapy because we focus on the here and now versus spending a lot of time on the history, because sometimes to do therapeutic work, you really have to go back. You have to dig into the history. You have to work on some trauma if necessary. So we call it solution focused for that reason. How can we get you from where you are to where you need to be or where you'd like to be?
Well, I'm going to go ahead.
One of the topics that we talk about for good nutrition for the mind is the hot topic nowadays, mindfulness.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So can you dive a little deeper and talk to us about what mindfulness is, define it for us? I know my EAP program at Generations, they come in and they do programming. They give different topics, presentations on topics, and actually one of them was mindfulness, because we could all use a little more mindfulness to be less stressed at work and at home, and have that work-life balance. So,
but before that, I want to tell another joke. Okay, I have another joke. Ready? Are you ready? Here's another joke. You guys are going to laugh at this one. Why do mindfulness experts stay away from vacuum cleaners? Too many attachments.
Good one, Kathleen.
Good one, Kathleen. You have been doing your humor homework.
I'm going to ask a data question too, don't you worry. But for now, we'll just keep it at the jokes. Anyways, so dive into some mindfulness for us, please. Get us away from these bad jokes.
So mindfulness can be used, anyone can use mindfulness. You don't have to be struggling with a particular stressor or trauma. Mindfulness is basically the practice of paying attention to the present moment on purpose and basically doing that without judgment, right? So it's, for instance, if you ever notice that most of us aren't really present even when we're doing our day-to-day task, right? Let's say you're driving down the street, you get from point A to point B, but are you really being mindful, right? Paying attention to your surroundings, taking in the moment. A lot of us are not. We're just going through the motions, right? And it basically means noticing your thoughts, emotions, physical sensations, and even your surroundings, right? Paying attention to your surroundings. It's like you pass a tree every day and it's like, oh, I didn't notice that tree, the color of the leaves on those trees, on that tree. Because you're not being mindful. You're not paying attention to the present moment. So mindfulness, when you pay attention to the physical sensations in your body, usually from, your conscious being, right? So paying attention to the sensations. It's like if you ever go to the beach and you're put your feet in the sand, paying attention to the sensation with the sand in your toes.
That's where I want to be right now.
We can't, unfortunately. But, that's basically what mindfulness is. It's just being present in the moment and taking in whatever it is that you're feeling, the emotions that you're having. I think I mentioned to Kathleen before I came in, is that I had to use some mindfulness with the weather that we've been having. The anxiety that come about from driving in slippery conditions, and how when I practice mindfulness, it helps decrease my anxiety, right? By just taking in some deep breathing, Can
you say a little bit, or expand a little bit more on the without judgment part
without
of
judgment.
Because that's without
judgment. Basically without criticizing, right? Without criticizing yourself, without being hard on yourself, just reflecting on whatever it is that you're feeling, whatever it is that you're experiencing without judgment, without.
So if the waistband on my pants are too tight, I'm not supposed to say, because I need to lose weight. I'm just supposed to acknowledge that the waistband on my pants are too tight.
You acknowledge that the waistbands are too tight, but you also are mindful that maybe you need to do something about it.
Okay. All right.
So you can probably tell from my actions and the speed that I talk at, I am moving in 50 different directions all at once. I'm a multitasker, maybe not good at it. But what are some of the tips to get you in that right space to do some of that mindfulness? Like, I can't get myself to sit still and meditate. I want to keep moving, or I'm Kathleen, I'm thinking about what I want to eat for dinner, not about those tight pants that I should be thinking about, instead of just being present and noticing that tree or the sounds around me.
It's just focusing, right? And tuning out those things that are not important in the moment, right? So it's hard to do for some of us, but if you tune it out, the things that you need and focus on what you need to focus on, then, that's how you can practice mindfulness. So, for instance, if you pay attention, you might not notice that you can hear the lights in here.
That's right, they're clicking.
Right.
I think one of your bulbs is going to go out soon, Matt.
So, but if you're being mindful, for instance, you might be able to recognize that there are some sounds coming from the lights in here, right? Because you've tuned out everything else that doesn't matter.
It's a hard thing to do on radio, but all of a sudden I'm like, listening, and it's right there. You think we're in a studio where things are essentially quiet.
Right.
Soundproof.
Right.
And yet there's sound all
There's
around
sound
us.
all around us.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah, and breath work, right? This
Breath
has to
work.
come into this.
Right. So, mindfulness, like, for instance, is the deep breathing, like inhaling, exhaling. So it's usually, where you inhale for 4 seconds. Inhale.
Like the box breathing.
Practice deep breathing. So 3 to 5 deep breathing.
Yeah.
So you inhale for 4 seconds, right? And you hold it for 4 seconds. And then you exhale for 6 seconds. And if you repeat that pattern, that's an example of a mindfulness exercise.
Sure.
Another one might be a grounding technique, right? Where you might be able to focus on some things around you, like the things that you can hear, the things that you can see, the things that you can feel, the things that you can smell. And that's an example of a grounding exercise. And it helps distract you from those things that may be causing increased anxiety or increased stress.
And
because it gives you something else to focus on.
And so do we have real data, or can we say that bringing a mindfulness practice into your life will get you what? How does it nurture you?
Besides reduce anxiety, which you've mentioned.
How does
Yeah.
it nurture your mind?
It
Right.
nurtures your mind because the more you do it, the more it becomes part of your routine and your practice, right? Like if you incorporate it into your daily practice, then it becomes part of your daily habits, right? And the more you do it, the easier it becomes for you, or it just becomes part of. It's like meditating, The more you do it, it becomes part of your regular routine and habits.
If you could talk about a barrier, so there's how we process, just how our brains work, right? So there's just who you are as a human on this planet could be a barrier to a mindfulness practice. Alice and I are both people who tend to function pretty well in the multitasking world.
Type A personalities,
Yeah,
yes.
but maybe part of our barrier is our stubbornness. I don't know. What do you encounter when not you, you're not stubborn. Me. What do you encounter is like when you're trying to teach somebody barriers?
You can
teach
say it
somebody
about me.
mindful-
I'm all right, Kathleen, with that.
It's just focusing on that one thing that's important to you in the moment. Like, for instance, when you're practicing mindfulness, it's not a time to be multitasking, right? Because you can't really focus on that one thing
That's so
important.
ironic. When you're practicing mindfulness,
Right.
you can't be multitasking.
You cannot. You have to focus on that one thing that's important. It's just focusing on that thing first. So, for instance, let's say if you struggle with ADHD and your mind's all over the place, or you've got racing thoughts, try to hone in on that one thing that's important that you're trying to focus on.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Is there a recommended number of times you do a mindfulness action during the day to actually show decreased stress levels, decreased anxiety levels?
I'd say as often as you need to, or when the opportunity presents itself, because you might not have the opportunity to do it because you're focused on something else, right? So it's whenever the opportunity presents itself, or there's a need. Let's say you're struggling with something, an anxiety or stress-related, specific stress. Try to focus on meditation to help decrease that level of anxiety or stress.
Well,
That's a good thing.
I know that for example, some of the benefits that can come from a mindfulness practice are facilitating healing from trauma, for example, improving academic performance,
Right.
Broadening our thinking into a larger context, enhancing our communication skills, improving our relationships, enhancing self-awareness, promoting curiosity. And I really love this idea that it can help you relate new learning and new information into what you already know. That to me is such a great benefit of a mindfulness practice. It's just like enhancing what you already know.
Right, and these are some of the things that we already know, but we're not doing.
Okay.
So, it improves the quality of sleep, for instance. It might even improve your quality of sleep. It might help improve your mood, mood regulation and things like that. So there are definitely a lot of benefits, like you mentioned, and it supports your overall well-being, right?
So we've got about a minute left. I do want to make sure that we talk about how people can find you, United Services, the whole cache of programs and opportunities that are at United Services, how employers might be able to connect to EAP if they need to do that. So can you just shout that out one more time for all of us?
So again, my name is Melisa Roberson. I can be reached at two different phone numbers. One is 860-774-2020. That is our Dayville location. Or our Mansfield office is 860-456-2261. So if anyone wants to reach out, you can ask for me specifically, or if you wanted to reach out regarding any of our other programs, calling any one of those numbers can get you connected to a professional.
Can you share your website, United Services website, with us as well?
It's the UnitedServices.org website.
UnitedServices.org. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's where you'll find a list of all the services, and actually contact information for you, I'm sure, is on there as well.
Correct. It's
And if
on the website.
employers are interested about EAP, they can get you through all of that.
It's on the website.
Okay, great.
Yes.
Thank you. We've really enjoyed learning about mindfulness, learning about the EAP program at United Services. Thank you for spending time with us today. We're going to take a short break and come back in the second half, and we are going to talk about
The absorbent mind, how we are going to feed the young mind, so children and their mindful development.
All right. Thank you for having me.
Oh,
Thank
thank
you.
you, Melissa. This is great. Hey, hi. Welcome back to Community Conversations. In our first half, we heard about how critical brain nutrition we heard how critical brain nutrition is for all of us. And the program's right here that United Services provides, helping families get what they need.
And now we're turning our attention in the second half to another stage of life that is crucial for the rest of our lives, early childhood. For so many of our youngest humans, the earliest years can be deprived of good brain nutrition. Introductions to all kinds of nutrition for the brain, often goes overlooked if families are facing basic need issues. So when children don't get fed enough brain stimuli, in the early absorbent years, I like that word, absorbent years. That's a new term.
It's a real
for me.
thing.
It
It's
is
a real thing. Donna's going to tell us all about it.
Can't wait to learn more about it. Then if they don't, in the early absorbent years, get the things they need, the nutrients they need, as we've been talking about, they face lifelong hurdles to real achievement. So here today with us in the second half are two early childhood educators that are going to help us to understand absorbent years and the importance of those early developmental years. So welcome Donna Clouette from Mount Hope Montessori and Matthew Kyer, Coventry Grammar School's media specialist. We're thrilled to have you both on here to talk about the earliest part of our lives and what's important to make our brain healthy.
And we always start out with the easy questions. I mean, these are all easy for you because you guys know everything there is that we're talking about. But basically, we want you to talk about yourselves, that which you know the most. So we want you to talk about how you came to the work that you do and whether or not there were any early life experiences that sort of got you to where you are and made you choose the line of work that you're in. So let's start with you, Donna, and then Matthew after Donna. Donna?
Well, I came in a sort of a circuitous way. I was an enthusiastic reader as a child, very enthusiastic. And I was naturally a college English major. And then when I finished with that, I really didn't want to teach high school. And I tried, when we moved here from Concord, New Hampshire, from my husband to go to grad school, I tried to get a job at a newspaper writing.
Oh,
because that was
interesting.
sort of English reading related. Not successful, and got a job in the Mansfield school system as a para-professional in the Title I program. And a great deal of what I did for 8 years there was working with children who were having trouble with reading.
Okay.
And I learned from a very wonderful teacher that I worked with a lot at Vinton School, Bertha Schiller. And she was a longtime Willimantic, Mansfield community person. And then after 8 years, I had my own child. And when he was 3, I went around looking to decide where he would go to preschool. And I went to several preschools, and they were, okay. And I went to Mount Hope Montessori, which was oddly enough right around the corner from Mansfield Hollow where we lived.
On Bass's Bridge
Yeah,
Road.
and I knew nothing about it. I had driven, these days you would see Montessori and you'd say, oh, I'll Google that. I would have had to go to the library.
Which we're going to talk about, the library
yeah,
with Matthew.
Love the library.
Go to the library.
And when I stepped in the door there and saw the atmosphere, it felt like home, and it felt like they really got kids. And that was where he ended up for 3 years.
And where you ended up for 50.
Not that long.
Sorry.
Excuse me.
45.
No, more like 38 or
Okay,
something like that.
okay.
Started out as an assistant, did the training, and was certified as a Montessori teacher in '92, and have been at it ever since.
yeah.
Retired a couple years ago. Had to come back and cover somebody who left, and then retired, but I'm still volunteering a couple mornings a week.
Nice. Matthew? Thank you, Donna.
Sure. Well, first of all, I'm going to start with that early experience that influenced who I am now. I was one of those kids whose mother had signed me up for the weekly reader program.
Oh, I remember that.
And if you're too young to remember, it was this program where a hardcover book would arrive, I think it was once a month, in the mail.
I got one of those too.
And these were really high-quality
Nice
children's books.
Yeah, I still have them.
Beautiful illustrations. They were well-known authors and illustrators, award-winning. And I just loved getting those books in the mail and having a collection of books at home. And like Donna, I was an avid reader, even as a young boy. At university, I was an anthropology major with no direction. I had no idea what I wanted to be when I grew up, which was becoming a problem because I was going to finish a degree, and how many jobs are there in anthropology?
We're not talking about the
Not
clothing
in
store.
Eastern Connecticut.
Right.
Exactly. I also was at UConn on a scholarship, and part of my scholarship was work study. So I had to find a job on campus, and they would pay me. And this is all back before the internet. You couldn't just go to the bursar's office website and look at all the jobs online. You actually had to go into the bursar's office, and the hallways were lined with cork boards, and job postings were up, and a lot of them had to do with being a dishwasher in the dining halls. I wasn't interested. I had done that before. And I ran across a posting for working at the child labs. I had to find out what the child labs were, but it's basically an on-campus daycare center. And it's also provides an opportunity for students who are in the early childhood program to do their field work. I wasn't in the early childhood program, but they hired me to work there. I think I worked maybe 10 hours a week. And I just thought, well, working with kids, that sounds like fun. I used to be a camp counselor at the Boy Scout camp, and I had done a little bit of babysitting. And I just had such a great time that when I did graduate, I immediately went, and my very first job out of college was at Mansfield Discovery Depot, and I was there for about 6 years. And then while I was there, I realized I wasn't really making very much money, and I was married. I actually met my wife at the child labs. She was also an adult, not one of the
I was
children.
going to say, was she one of the children? I hope not.
Probably important to point out. And we had our first baby, and I was making $16,000 a year. I'm not kidding.
Right.
So that's when I decided I should probably go back to school and get my teaching certificate. And so I've been a public school teacher now for 30 years. I taught second grade. I've taught first grade. And this is my 7th year in the library as the library media specialist at Coventry Grammar School, which is has an early childhood focus. It's only kindergarten, first, and second grades.
Wow. Have you always been in the Coventry school system?
I was in Stafford for 11 years, and then the last 19 in Coventry.
Nice. Donna, I'm going to throw this back at you. You talked about Montessori. Can you talk about what the Montessori approach to education is?
Sure. It started around the early 20th century, 1900 whatever, with Maria Montessori, who was Italy's first female physician. And so she was kind of a trendsetter in many ways, and she worked with a lot of children who had actual neurological problems. And then she developed some ways of teaching them, and she began to think, well, this would work really fine with regular kids. And so they put her in charge of a sort of housing development for the poor. And she worked with those children. And the whole basis of her approach is for the teacher to very closely observe the children and see what they already knew and what they were interested in and what they could do by themselves. A big aim of Montessori is for the children to be as independent as possible. And another big thing is that part of this observation is to then prepare the environment, put out activities that the actual children in the class, specific children, would be drawn to and could learn from themselves independently, with the teacher stepping in when they needed help, but not intruding. She will give a presentation of exactly how to do it if they need it, but it's a child-based, child-focused way of education, and it works for 3-year-olds, it works for 2-year-olds, and it works for 6-year-olds, and it works for elementary school children too. They just keep on going.
And now the opportunity to talk about the absorbent mind and how that factors into this philosophy.
Right. Well, that basically says that if they're not ready, they're not going to absorb it. Mm-hmm. If they are ready, they are really going to absorb it. And she had the idea of different stages. The stage 3 to 6 is a very sensitive period for language, which explains why generally, neurologically speaking, and educational psychologists, have certainly noticed how foreign language is absorbed very quickly by children. Not only their own language, speaking it, reading it, writing it, but they're very open to all kinds of languages, much more successful than adults at learning languages.
In Mount Hope, what grades does it begin at, and when does it end?
Well, we have a toddler program, which is 18 months through 3, except the 3. I mean, if it's like in the spring, they wouldn't automatically transfer it to the other class, and then the other class is 3 to 6-year-olds. So it's a 3-year program, and they stay with the same teacher in the same class, but each year, the ones who left are replaced by the little 3-year-olds, new children coming in. So it's all these children support each other. The teacher supports them, and they're encouraged and praised for supporting each other and being helpful to each other.
So a lot of role modeling going on.
A lot of role modeling going on.
What's the typical class size at a Montessori, and what's the typical class size now at a grammar school in Coventry?
I would expect it's pretty similar. I mean, for 3 to 6, there's a 10 children to 1 child ratio according to the state. We try to keep it a little under that. We usually have 18 children So we have two teachers and often three. So there's a good ratio, and they do get observed. We do a lot of observing and then basing everything on that.
And, of course, in Coventry, we're very fortunate to have what I would consider to be reasonable class sizes. Our kindergarten classes probably average around 16 students.
Nice. Oh, that's nice.
First grade, maybe 18, 19, and then they get a little bit bigger in second grade. They might even be 20 or 21 students, but those are great. Now, there are places in Connecticut where the class sizes are much bigger, but we're very fortunate.
What does a media specialist do? Is it
Sure.
what we used to call a librarian?
It's what we, I think, still call a librarian. So the library media specialist label came about when we were introducing more and more, I'll just call it media, into schools. I still remember when I was teaching second grade, my very first job, so this is 30 years ago, when I was hired, the school had just put in the very first computer lab in that school. And the computers were basically collecting dust because no one had been trained not only in how to use the computers, because many of these teachers didn't have computers at home, but they certainly hadn't been trained in effective ways to integrate the use of the computers with young children. I saw this computer lab and was kind of fascinated, and I started bringing my students to the computer lab and was having a lot of fun with it. And the district kind of picked up on that, and within a couple of years they had created a new position, and it was basically a position where they hired me to work with all of the schools and work with teachers to help them understand how to use the computers and how to get students excited about getting into the computer lab. So I was doing this technology integration. And there was a real demand for that at the time. You know, we had students who were used to, doing a book report when they could be doing something in PowerPoint and making a really interesting presentation on what they had learned. Now, 30 years later, I have colleagues who weren't born 30 years ago when I first started teaching. I have seen schools having computer labs where they've dismantled the computer labs because now we have districts like mine that are one-to-one districts, meaning every student has a Chromebook or a laptop, including the kindergartners. So there's no need for computer labs. We just don't need them. We also have teachers who just grew up in that digital world. They don't have questions that they're going to the library media specialist with saying, how do you use email?
Right.
Or how do you use PowerPoint?
It's just so ubiquitous. Everybody has it now.
They were born knowing how to do all that. I always say my youngest came out with a screen in his hand.
Exactly.
Right.
So there is still room for that media piece in my position. There are always new programs, new opportunities. So, for instance, I do all of the morning announcements, and I record them with students. So I need to know how to use Canva to create morning announcements. I have a 3D printer that I use with students, and it's the only 3D printer in the school. But I feel like, especially at the K-2 level, the biggest part of my job is the library piece of being a library media specialist, because there's nothing more important right now than getting books in kids' hands and getting them excited to pick up the next book.
And do you have computers in the Montessori environment, or?
We don't have them in the classrooms, just the office staff.
Okay, and so the kids aren't encouraged to
No.
utilize computers.
So I want to jump into some ideas about reading and language and reading acquisition skills. And so the difference and similarities between, let's call it a traditional classroom that Matthew would be utilizing or working in and what Donna would be working in. What are the differences? What are the similarities? How do kids at a Montessori school learn to read? How do kids at CGS learn to read?
Well, it doesn't, from what you wrote in your questions, it sounds like there are a lot of similarities. Montessori starts with a very much of a phonics-based system, learning the sounds of the letters. Maria Montessori is said to have said, who is, of course, an Italian speaker, oh, reading is easy. Once you learn the sounds of the 20 whatever letters they have, you can read anything. Well, that's fine in Italian.
Right.
It does not work in English. So while we start with them learning the sounds of the letters, we fairly soon start to introduce sight words, especially common sight words like the. I mean, the most common words we use
Right.
are not phonetic.
Yes, no, this, that.
And we also,
Is, are.
right, we also start with word building and spelling as opposed to reading per se, because it's a one sound at a time operation, as opposed to reading when if you have a word with 3 or 4 letters, you have to remember the letters that went before the letter that you're sounding out now. But that doesn't go on for a long time, but it's the way that we introduce phonics, and then we move on from there to sight words. And a lot of writing, too. So.
And I've seen, I've been doing this long enough that I've seen different approaches being used to teach
Yes.
reading
Oh,
over
my
time.
Has it come full circle?
Yes.
Well, almost. You know, when again, 30 years ago, my first classroom, we were doing what's called whole language. So every student had the same thick book. It was called a Basel, and it contained lots and lots of stories. And we were treating every child as if they were exactly the same, and we were all reading the same stories. And when I was teaching first grade in Coventry, we were doing more of like a guided reading approach where we had different small books and we pulled different kids to our teaching table, different groups of kids based on reading level, and work on different skills with them. The science of reading right now suggests that in order to really be an effective reader, a student needs phonics, but they also need a rich vocabulary. And so we have a new program in Coventry this year. It's Wit and Wisdom, but there are other districts using it, other programs out there that we're not, but other districts are. But it tries to address that need for both phonics and vocabulary acquisition.
I want to ask one question, Matthew. I want to ask, how young can a child what is the youngest age a child can get a library card?
I have no idea what the answer to that question is. You mean like at a public library?
I think it's birth, right? Can't you get a library card at birth?
That would be very cool.
I think so.
Wow.
I don't think I made that up. I mean, I might have made that up, but I'm pretty sure. Like, I remember a program that you were born in a hospital, let's say, and you when you went home,
You had your library
they
card
gave
in
you
your
a library card. So I think you can be any age to get a library card. And the other question I want to ask you, Matthew, is about Kenya. Can you just say a little something about your fellowship with
sure.
American Friends of Kenya?
Sure. There is a program called Fund for Teachers that awards fellowships up to $5,000. And I applied for this fellowship a couple of years ago, and the fellowship allowed me to go to Kenya with a group called American Friends of Kenya. American Friends of Kenya collects used books. They send them in shipping containers over to Nairobi, and then these books are distributed to lots of different rural schools in different parts of Kenya. So I went with them, and part of my responsibility while I was there is I was doing storytelling. So I was introducing just a lot of folk tales and just kind of demonstrating how even if you don't have books, you have storytelling, and trying to make sure that the message is the storytelling is universal. Every culture has their own folktales.
And so, Donna, what would you say to parents? What advice would you give to parents who want to help their kids be successful and happy lifelong readers?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked that. My advice always to parents is read. Read to children. And don't assume when your child gets to the point that they can read that you should just stop. You can make it a ritual. You can do it as formally or informally as you want. But that is, to me, I think, both in my personal life and in all the children that I've known, the amount of reading that's done to children active. Get excited and the more they see you reading.
Role model.
But also the pleasure of it. I mean, I was talking to my son today about we read until he was like 12 at night. We read all the Narnia books and we read all those kind of older kid books, but it shows the joy of reading.
All right. Read.
Yes. So thank you. So whether you're a new parent, an older adult, or are currently employed, or just someone who wants to improve their minds, the resources are out there. We've heard from the great resources here for children. You can learn more about Mount Hope Montessori and American Friends of Kenya, libraries, and librarians, all from their websites. We will share those websites on WILI, but if you would like to say the Montessori's website now.
I don't even know what it is, but can I put in a plug for a book for parents about reading?
Sure.
Yes.
It's called the Read Aloud Handbook. Sometimes it's called, the newer version is the New Read Aloud Handbook.
I got that as a shower gift.
The author is Jim Trelease. I've given multiple copies of that.
So you're the one that's going to baby showers for expectant
I
parents
am.
And handing those out.
That's an amazing
It was a
book.
great gift, and I valued all the resources
Yep.
in it. So thank you
Thank
again.
you.
We're
Thank you
wrapping it up.
both.
We
Yeah.
appreciate you both being our guest, and we're going to talk to everybody in 2 weeks here on Community Conversations. It'll be March 18th, and we'll be talking about nutrition again here on WILI 1495.3. Thank you again for joining us.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.